Hey, Dave, yours is not live. Why didn't yours go live?
I don't know.
Oh, now it did. Yours is like a minute behind mine.
Yep, there it goes. It's a
That
little slow. We're up.
is really odd. So you got three people. I got what? So anyway, yeah. So what inspired this is I went on Jimbob's channel, presumably to teach him about evolution, and that wasn't really why I went on Jimbob's channel. I went on there to get with the hope of getting a really concise idea of his modus operandi. And Dave certainly got a taste of that with the what was it? Uh, Changes in allele frequency are an observation, but they're also a theory. That sort of bullshit.
Yep.
And so that was kind of my point. And it's really interesting when you're dealing with somebody who you expect to be have an honest conversation with. It's really difficult when that's not who they are at all. When there's something horribly different than that, when there's somebody that a pig slug, okay, like it's the only way to say it. He's just a fucking slug, and he's also not very. He's bright enough to learn words and some philosophy. So he obviously has, some sort of a working academic brain, but he's not bright enough. He's not bright enough to see his own flaws, or he is doing this on purpose, that he sits around and plans this, right? That I'm gonna run a show, get 400 trusty followers. They're gonna eat out of my hand. They're gonna treat me like Trump, and I'm going to do all these games and make atheists look stupid. And that's he tries to make everybody look stupid. I think he hates Trump. He hates a lot of conservatives. He hates every other kind of Christian other than the Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox Christian. So that's his whole thing. So he's got a whole lot of people on there that he would probably hate if he actually talked to them, or he'd hate on them. But they're eating out of his hand. And I'm wondering what kind of a person will fall for something like Trump, where, I'm going to listen to everything he says, and I'm just going to follow him around, and I'm going to smell his butt. It's like, what kind of person does that? These are the kind of people that Jimbob has attracted in his chat. And then there are a few people, like I found one in his comment stream, that actually does think a little bit, and he talks about why he's a young earth creationist. You want to hang on for a second? I got to yell at somebody. Get off my lawn.
Hello, Nitty and Brainless and Lori and Ape and Provo. Good to see everybody on both channels. And yeah, we got you back. Okay.
Oh, we got.
I said hello to everybody.
Oh, David, Nitty, Brainless Steel, Provo Planet. I got Trusty Ape, Kevin, and who else? I got Restream IO. I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. Anyway, David, Lori Hayes is here. How about that? And Nitty. Anyway, I'm just in like shock and wonder over the kinds of people that you deal with in this community, and how they can be, presumably you can have a conversation with them, but you can't. No matter what you do, no matter what kind of facts you throw at them, they bounce off like like you're throwing ping pongs at the wall, and it's just absolutely kind of disturbing. What's disturbing about it is they vote.
Well, it's if like with me, I don't claim to be a scientist or anything. I just try to have an understanding of things. But the idea, and it's with the creationists too, that Dave couldn't answer one question, so see, all of evolution is not true. And it's
Right.
like,
Right.
if I answered every question wrong, I can still stroll down to the university a couple miles down the road here and find a biology class, and guess what they're teaching? Biology. It's
Yeah. And they're
it,
teaching evolution. And
yeah.
and that's the other thing. They're listening to somebody who has never been trained in the field, who very obviously doesn't know anything more than surface level, who claims that he's overturned the entire field and he's smarter than all of science. Now, somebody did a video yesterday about this problem with where the hell did I see that? It was like a documentary or something where they were trying to figure out what is behind this distrust. Scott would know who it was. I think he recommended it to me. But this distrust of science and distrust of Fauci, and there's just all this crazy distrust of the government, and believing that there's these groups of liberals that are gathering together in dark basements, planning to overturn elections and planning to fool you about the moon landing. I mean, who believes this crap? It's just, oh my God, I don't know. Anyway, so where am I at here? Oh, little window, turn my cam on. Okay. I made this comment today. I'm probably going to get tossed off. This Clay 8546 was trying to throw facts at Jimbob. And I said, Clay 85.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think Clay said something. I think we said something back and forth in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, I think you give pig slugs too much credit. They have a very primitive nervous system. I'm talking about Jimbob. And we often anthropomorphize their behavior as being that of an honest interlocutor who is simply wrong. You will notice that if you say words to Jimbob, he always responds with a fixed string of unintelligible syllables that only sounds vaguely like common sense English. He is mimicking sounds that he heard humans make before on his show. Pig slugs are not actually aware that they are with another living being. This is important. They simply stick to your balls and then do this kind of twerking thing for their audience, presumably so they can attract mates. The behavior, of the Jimbob pig slug is something that it just mimics human beings so well, like any good parrot, that you think he actually wants to talk to you, and this is just simply not the case. So anyway,
and that's how he'll start. He'll oh, come on, well, this and that. And when I went to go on the time, he said, oh, hang on. He took all the crap off the screen, and he's okay. Let's be all proper and everything, and talk to captive desk. Yeah. And that lasts about a minute or two.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, let's see here. So we did the same thing. So I guess I kind of want to go through, because there's something important here, and I was hoping Mr. Anderson would contact me. I just reached out to him this morning. I'd like to know how to deal with this kind of a person. I think the best way to deal with this kind of a person is to let them talk, let them come up with more and more garbage. And I kind of did that yesterday. So I went on, and for some reason, my audio was horrible on his channel. I hope it ain't that bad here. Let's see. Okay. And I said, okay, he's talking about this textbook scientific method, right? And you can go out and ask ChatGPT what the scientific method is, and it'll tell you a little list, a little recipe list. You can ask it what a theory is. It'll give you bullet points. But nobody actually sits around and holds a card in their hand and reads this recipe and says, okay, I got to have an observation. Then I got to ask a question. Then I got to observe some more. And Jimbob either, probably, because he kind of fucked me up. He wouldn't, he skipped a step. And he would say, now we're on number 2, the hypothesis. No, that's not we have to, if you want to follow the recipe, let's follow the fucking recipe, right? Anyway, so yeah, where are we here?
And that was the thing when I was talking. He kept wanting to go back to what's the observation and the hypothesis when we were already talking about a scientific theory?
Yeah.
And I said, it's already been through the scientific method. That's why it's a scientific theory. Well, you got to take it through the scientific method. And it's like, what? What, you don't take it through the scientific method?
Yeah.
So,
I said, okay, there's a textbook thing about scientific method. We can go over that. But then, as far as what real scientists do in real labs, I don't think they ever read this yet. So they don't really care. It's not important because they know what they're
doing. Hold on. I'm going to close my window.
Okay. Got a little bit of noise. There is, I mean, they went through the scientific method in 7th grade or, definitely college. And they don't have to keep going over and saying, I have to the scientific.
Sorry about that. The city's out here cutting the cul-de-sac.
And then he says, like what? Oh my God. And then he says, like what? Well, like we use changes in allele frequency. Can we use changes in allele frequency? That's what he wanted me to do because that's what you brought up. And what the hell was that?
And that's where he twisted my words too. He said, Captain Death says this is the theory of evolution. I said, no. My question was, what does the theory of evolution state?
Right.
That was my question. And like you said, right away, he takes a word out of there or changes it on you.
Yeah. And I just refused to listen to him. And I said, okay, there's plants, there's animals, there's all. And then he interrupts. Let's take changes in allele frequency. That's what he wanted to do. And I said, why do we want to do that? Like,
because he's jabbing at me.
Why do we want to do that, right? and then he says, because we're talking about evolution, and so I want to get through this, is changes in allele frequency and observation. And I said, I thought you wanted observation that we started with the scientific method that Darwin started with. And then he interrupts again. Let's see. He said, yeah, Darwin didn't know genetic stuff. So he obviously didn't know about changes in allele frequency, right? Anyway, so, then I went on and I tried to, lay it out for him that basically there's something really important that you have to understand about, what an allele is and all of that. And that didn't go so well. And then he said, I was talking about the diversity of life and the similarity of life. There's two things going on, which we'll get into. And then he said, yeah, what's the cause? Like, what causes that? It's like, okay, what causes life? It's like, that's a pretty big discussion, right? I mean, he wanted me to give him a one-line answer, changes in allele frequency, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's the press release for evolution. And I think we're kind of like undermining ourselves by using that press release. And you can see how much trouble you get into with it,
Yeah. Well, I was just leading down one path of this is what it says. And then, like I told him, then you can swab people's mouths from all around the world or whatever.
Yeah.
Lions, tigers, dogs, birds, whatever, you get the swabs out, right? And then you do the testing. And that is your allele frequencies. That's your data laid out that you can see, aha, it matches up.
Yeah. You could observe allele frequencies and you could observe changes. You would have to take a population of, say, all the human beings in the world, and you'd have to find a way to sample them, or you would have to gene sequence all of them. And then you would do it again in 20 years and 50 years and 100 years. Or you could go find a population of beetles in a certain area and you could test, sample their genome. And then you could basically do that sampling over a period of 50 years and see what happened. But I mean, and we're doing a little bit of that. We're working on that. But you know how much that would cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sequence 10,000 beetles on a hill, keep track of them, tag them, figure out where they're going, and figure out all the other shit you need to figure out. And
if somebody does do that, you know what's going to show up in the news on Fox or something? They're going to say, "Look at this! Some scientist got $5,000 to go look at
Yeah,
beetles.
right. Yeah.
This is what our money's going for." And it's like, that's what that money's earmarked for, is to give these scientists money. And then, yeah, it goes right back around. Well, why aren't the scientists out, sequencing these beetles? Because you told your congressman or whatever not to give him the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it would be about 5 million just to do beetles.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
And it's going to cost several billion to do it with humans. And we are going to do that. Eventually, we are going to start tracking whole genomes of the human race. And but then we're going to run into all the religious people are going to say, "Oh, mark of the devil," and all that crap, and we're going to have trouble. Anyway, let's see. If you want to sit here, okay. If you want to sit here and piss on them, then get off YouTube. Technology built on a rigorous implementation of their methods. That's true, Nitty. We're probably on the wrong fucking platform, but
and just to plug myself, they really hate me over on Jimbob's channel. The video he made about me has got like 5,000 views. They hate me more than Breakfast Tacos and Prophet Azad.
Yeah. I wish you'd do a little clip on me. I guess they were talking about hating me on Kentucky Atheist last night or whatever, or Jimbob hating me.
Mark Reed was talking about Jimbob a little bit, about similar to what you were saying, that he twists your words and he doesn't listen and he's got an agenda and he's not very nice. And
yeah, I don't know what you're saying here, Nitty. I don't make hundreds of dollars. That's for damn sure. I spend hundreds of dollars on this, but he's talking about something else and I'm not sure. Anyway. Okay. So then he goes, "Okay, can I ask you a question?" And that's where everything turns to shit, right? So I'm trying to start out and tell him basically, okay, let's, give you in a nutshell what the theory of evolution is about. And then he's here. "Oh, no, we got to ask you a question. We're at the second point of the scientific method, which is the hypothesis. And not really, there are a few steps before you get to a hypothesis. Okay. Do you agree that to have a viable hypothesis, you need to have something, you need access to the thing you're saying causes the phenomena, and you need to be able to introduce that thing and remove it?"
I didn't get that at all.
Okay. So what he's talking about, he's talking about doing an experiment like if we did a study on cancer, we would, figure out what the independent variable would be how much vitamin C people take. And then we would hold we'd try to fix everything else, and we'd figure out whether or not vitamin C caused them cancer. So he's talking about that kind of an experiment.
A control?
A control.
Is a control? Okay.
Yeah, and he wants to have a variable that you can knock out. And of course, in genetics, we do have something that we can knock out. We can knock out genes, but that is a whole nother subject. And I know he wasn't ready for that subject. So, so then, okay, I said, yeah, okay. The question is number 2, not number 3, or not number. I don't know what the hell he was getting.
You said now we're up to number 3, and he's like, no, we're still on number 2.
Yeah, and okay, what causes diversity is the hypothesis. So let's see. No, I'm not on number 3. We're on number 2. What causes diversity is the hypothesis. No, it ain't. So what I ask you, if you posit that's the question. What causes diversity? What causes life? That would be the question that evolution answers, right? That's not the hypothesis, because there isn't one hypothesis. It's ridiculous. Okay. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about right now. And he said, "Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about. You don't know what an independent variable is, such that you have access to introducing it to an experiment, removing it, to know that it's causing the thing you're saying it's causing. You don't know what I'm talking about." I said, "Right." I said, you skipped a really important step. Number 1, you made an observation. Number 2, you come up with a question about that observation. How did it happen? Okay. And he said we already did that. Let's see. Number 3, you come up with a hypothesis about how it happened. That's the same as number 2, he says. I don't know what the fuck. Well, I don't know what he was talking. Let's see. Okay, where are we at here?
Well, and that's a lot of words to just say that you need a control.
Yeah.
You know, that's what he's doing. It's a big long sentence for saying, you know, do you have a control? And it's like, well, you always have a control. That's a good experiment, is to have a control.
Yeah. It's like, okay, so our project is we have to go into the Amazon forest and we have to turn the Amazon forest into a modern suburb. We have to build houses. We have to, you know, buildings and grocery stores and highways and infrastructure. And he's like, no. How are you gonna put 2 boards together? You know, how are you gonna put 2 boards together? What are you gonna use? What's the hypothesis? And I'm like, dingle balls. You fucking use a nail sometimes, a screw. I mean, what are you talking about? We're talking about turning the Amazon forest into a suburb, and you want to ask about a nail, right? That's what he's, and he doesn't realize how stupid he is.
Well, that's what he said about you can't observe the universe. You can only observe the things in it. And it's like, yeah, but if you point enough telescopes, you know, in enough different directions, right? Yeah. You can see the observable universe. So it's twisting things all around. And it's like, well, of course, if you're looking at Mars, for instance, you don't see the whole universe. But yeah, if you point telescopes everywhere, though, you can see it. So it's like, it's hard to follow when he goes into those long little, pre-made things he's got.
Well, he does a lot of "you're not even wrong" stuff. I mean, you know, it's pretty bad. Okay, so wait a second, say that again. The hypothesis is what? And then I tried to explain it to him again. I said, okay, things reproduce, copy, whatever. And he said, okay, hold on. Let me rephrase what you're saying here, just to make sure you know what you're saying, right? So now he wants to put words in my mouth. He says, you're saying the hypothesis is diversity causes diversity. And this is where we really went off the rails, okay? Because I thought about that for a second. I said, well, yeah, there's a little bit of truth in that, because diversity will basically complexify in a population and cause more diversity in the future. And I should have said no right off, right? But I fell for it. I fell for his fucking bait. He said something really stupid, something that I would have to think about to realize how stupid it is. And then I said, yeah, okay, you can say that. And then he says, oh, so, okay, great. I'm amazed.
And then it stuck.
Yeah. So, okay, that's great. I'm amazed that you accept that as some sort of viable hypothesis, but what causes the first thing that you have called diversity? Okay, now he wants me to tell him what caused diversity to start. And I said, you're moving the goalposts. Okay, you're starting to talk about abiogenesis. And then I went on and I tried to correct him again. And I was, and what an idiot I am that I thought I would get back on track with him. Right? And then I started, trying to explain it to him. And he says, I don't care about Darwin. I care about the scientific method, right? Because he is such a good scientist. We started from observation, diversity. We came to the question about that. What causes diversity? You said diversity causes diversity. Now, introduce diversity and remove it. What the fuck? And introduce it to demonstrate causes diversity. Well, and then I said, if I said that, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said that, right? And I realized that I had made a mistake by going along with some dumb fucking bullshit he said. And I tried to correct it, right? And then I went on and I tried to bring it back on track. And then he said, okay, I don't want the story of what happened. I'm really strict here about the scientific method. Captain Death said, he said, reproduction. Are you now switching diversity? You're going to take Captain Death's reproduction? I don't know. Is your
Yeah, because I was commenting. No, Mike said, Darwin saw
diversity, right?
Diversity in litters from the babies don't look like the mama and daddy in small things, and then you also said, but then you have similar things as well, and that's why populations look alike.
Well, I think you need to back up with him, and first of all, you have to have that talk with him. It's like when mommy loves daddy really a lot, and daddy loves mommy a lot, right?
Well, and a lot of these things, are kind of what you would say are givens. You know what I mean? And he wants to go back, like as to things that are pretty much a given in the conversation. Of course, like with a good experiment, of course you're going to have controls. You're going to have blind studies, all those things. That's kind of a given. And he acts like, aha, see, these scientists aren't using controls or, whatever. And it's like, well, of course they are.
Yeah. And then he says this, I understand. No, it's not just a story. Actually, it's an, before that I said, Jimbob, that's all science is a story. And we need to admit that up front. I mean, we tell stories and we use imagination. And that's how we do science. That's a part of the scientific method that they don't list in textbooks. And we need to quit trying to fight them on this and say, yeah, we do that. And yeah, we have faith in things. Like I have faith that my fucking eyes work. I have faith that what I read from other human beings is something that I can accept to a certain degree. If you tell me that you have a riding lawnmower, I am going to have faith in that. So we need to, they want to keep putting these religious terms on us as if it's really weird when they say, oh, so you have faith, as if faith is a bad thing, right? No, we pretty much operate on faith, human beings. We're just blobs of meat. So let's just stop fighting them on this shit, right? Anyway, he says, I know, I understand. No, it's not just a story. Actually, it's an observation. Science is an observation. I'm trying to bring you through the scientific method here, okay? Now, you're changing it, and you don't want to go through it, right? Because I caught you on diversity.
There it is.
Causes diversity. Hold on. Diversity causes diversity. And I said, you're talking over me. And then it went off from there. Let's see. I'm going to mute you and I'm over talking you because you're not listening. I want you to take me through the scientific method using evolution. I granted you observation of diversity. Next step, we both agree is a hypothesis, asking a question. What causes diversity? Now, you said diversity does. In fact, if you look just above, I said, no, I misspoke, Jimbob. I shouldn't have said that. And then your dumb partner here, I think
that's me.
Causes it. Well, that's
yes, because that's what you said. Yeah, it's reproduction, and then the copying errors through reproduction, and he skips that though, and he knows diversity causes no. You said that, Jimbob. You said that.
So I'm asking you again, if you're going to take me through the scientific method, I already started with diversity, observation, please present the hypothesis, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And I said, you left something out again. And then he said, okay, does diversity cause similarity? Because I went and I told him, about what a population is. And now a population is a weird combination of similarity and diversity. And all of life works that way. And there's a really good reason why I wanted to make that clear, right? But we'll talk about that a little bit. And then I said, I don't even know how to answer some of your questions, Jimbob. You just wailed there or something. I don't know what I said. And don't know. Okay, I didn't. Did you want to have? Oh no, I said okay. Did you want to have a conversation? And he goes on, okay, so hold on. Dude, it's not a game. You're the one I'm using your words, you little pathetic human. I just said we observe diversity. Well, on and on and on he goes, and then and I think I tried to bring him back on track a couple times, and it just wasn't going well. Let's see. Is diverse great? Let's go to the hypothesis. Well, no. Hold on. Stop. He starts yelling, right? And he overtalks you, and he will not let you explain answer the question that he asked you, and that's a really important tactic of Jimbob. At this point, he simply wants to put more words in my mouth so he can get some sound bites and get some attention from his chat. Oh, let's see what else he's saying. If you tell a story of what happened that doesn't establish what caused it, there's a difference between doing a post-diction story that makes sense to you, right, as a description, blah, 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 and then it just keeps going off the rails from that. And then he threw me in the back room, and that was kind of the end of it. So anyway, my goodness, what are we gonna do? Okay. So, God, when we talk to people about evolution, there's one other thing I wanted to do here. Let me see if I can. Okay, this guy. It's worth going out and looking at the chat from. I don't even know where this is from. I think it's from yesterday. From Clay8546. Not that Jimbob ever made a claim. If you must know. Yeah,
I think he said something like what I was saying, that Jimbob doesn't listen. He just wants to say his little thing or whatever, and I agreed with him in the chat.
Yeah, but he's a creationist too. Clay is. Clay8546 is. And he said not that Jimbob ever made a claim about the age of the earth. Let me go back to my little window here. He says, not that Jimbob ever made a claim about the age of the earth, but if you must know, the only 2 points in favor of the earth being billions of years old is the geologic column, which has been inserted by the scientific community as an explanation for different layers of earth and rock. Charles Lyell, who hated Bible and God. Charles Lyell hated Bible. How does he know that? Actually said he wanted to take Moses out of the science book. When he came up with the idea, only that said it was tens of thousands of years old. And he goes on and he talks about, his journey. And basically what happened to him is when he started to go on YouTube to learn about, geology and the age of the earth, he says, okay, where the hell is it here? I think he mentions YouTube down here somewhere. He said that all that came up is all these creationists telling him how wrong science was. And that's what he started to read after that. So, I mean, he admits that he started watching Fox News and all of a sudden he was a Trump supporter. Go figure. I didn't watch anything except Fox News because that kept coming up on YouTube. It's like, well, we all know better than to follow what the YouTube algorithm leads us to, right? Because sooner or later you're going to end up with some motherfucker draining swamps out in the middle of Kentucky. You don't want to follow YouTube. Anyway, let's see. What do we got now? The shaking fist, who's the shaking fist? We got him on your channel, right?
Yep. He has he does reviews of stuff. He's over he's on the other side of the pond, I believe.
Okay. And then
check him out. He does he's very energetic. And he's got a lot to say about some of our favorites. I think he just took on Matt Powell the other day, stuff like that. So
I gotta have a link to his channel, and we should put it in our description. Okay, yeah.
I'll get you one.
He says, but also I don't really want to talk to them. But yeah, if you go on Jimbob's channel, it's just going to end up being a screaming match, and then you're going to get tossed out. I mean, there's no other way to go on Jimbob's channel and talk about anything. It's just so fucking sick. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, where are we at here? So I wanted to talk about this changes in allele frequency a little bit. And let's see, where are we at here? trying to find some information.
I dropped the links in both the chats for the Shaken Fist. Go check them out.
Okay.
I'll give you one
Well, I
in
can.
the private too there, Mike.
Okay, got it.
Everybody's got one.
Okay, I'll put it in my description. Somebody new for me. I don't know. Let's see. What is this member bullshit? Is that part of YouTube?
To support a channel, you can become a member, and they have different rates. It usually starts out at 99 cents a month, or it can be $1.99, $2.99, whatever. And then you get members only perks. They'll use emojis, members only streams. They'll throw you, little extra things for helping them out.
Okay.
And you're welcome, Shaken Fist. Hello, Simos. How you doing?
So that's so basically it's YouTube's competing with Patreon. Is that what it is? It's a YouTube.
It's a way for you to get make a little money for your effort. People.
What percentage do they take? YouTube.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I bet. I bet it's more than Patreon.
But like help, like over at Joe's channel, he has 99 cents. He has the minimum, you know what I mean? And some of the, you can't help everybody, sorry, but certain channels, I have a couple of memberships to help people out, and other ones I buy, a t-shirt or a mug, or I bought a couple books, you try to help people out.
And anyway, brains would melt. Okay. So anyway, this thing about changes in allele frequency. Okay, there's a press release, right, that somebody came up with, that if you accept changes in allele frequency over time in a population, then you automatically accept evolution. And that's true, because that's what it boils down to, is that in a population, you're going to have something called alleles. Okay, what's an allele? Okay. Typically, we say it's a gene. We'll pick, you take that big, long sequence of DNA and you divide it into chunks, and you say, okay, this chunk here looks like a gene because I can see where it starts coding a protein and where it stops. And then you have other things that could be alleles, like regulatory sequences or little RNAs or whatever. So, I mean, the concept of an allele is kind of arbitrary, right? And you pick them. And then so we look at all of the genes in the human race, and we're going to look at not just my genome or your genome, but we're going to look across the entire population. And then what happens is, okay, what we would predict and what will happen, and I'll tell you why we know it, is that in 1,000 years, the frequency of various, okay, wait a minute, I skipped a step. Okay, so if you have a gene for insulin and I have a gene for insulin, there are going to be slight differences in our genes. So there's going to be some variation between you and I as far as what's in our insulin gene, right? And most of the time that's okay. It'll still work just like insulin should work. And then we go look at the next guy, and he's got a little slight variation. And then we look at the next guy, and he's the same as the third guy. And the fifth guy is the same as the third guy, and on and on. And we find out that there are that 70-some% of the population has this one allele for insulin that is exactly the same. And the other 30% has another 20 variations, right? And we'll write them down on a big list, and we have all these variations. And if you look across a population, you're always going to find variations in that genome, in the entire genome. And that's because what life is something that reproduces with a very small amount of errors every time it reproduces. So we're going to see a change. Basically, every time the organism reproduces, we might introduce new alleles, right? And those alleles may spread in the population, or they may disappear in the population. It could drift out. But what we know is that if we take this list of alleles that exists right now today, August 15th, 2024, and then we compare it in 100 years, we know that there's going to be a difference in the frequency of those alleles. And there's two things here that are really important, and it's across two dimensions. Okay, you're looking at a change within a population today. We have change, like you and I, Dave, have 3 million, probably 3 million differences in our genomes, right? If we looked at them, you'd be 3 million nucleotides different than I. And then we also have that entire population changing over time. So it's two-dimensional, okay? And that's really important to try to understand. You gotta do population thinking. And then, okay, there's one more thing that we have to, I got a little thing here. Okay. To begin with, what is an allele? Okay, it's essentially a way to define segments of the genome, whether genes, regulatory sequences, transposons, pseudogenes, or anything you choose. The concept of allele frequency is multifaceted and it's a bit subjective. It depends on the researcher. On one level, it refers to variations among individuals within a given population. That's one dimension. On another, it tracks the shifts in these frequencies within the entire population over time. So that's really important. Okay, and so then there's another question that pops up here is, how do you define a population? So that's also subjective. Like the idea of species, it's really not very well defined. Now, if I'm looking at beetles on my hillside in my backyard, okay, if I go to the next hill, I'm going to find a different set of frequencies because beetles don't run very fast and they don't intermix all that fast. So you have to define what you mean by a species or a population. And there again, that is highly subjective. That's something that the researcher will choose. So you can see how muddy it gets, right? When we're talking about this. But now the other thing that happens is that, okay, we have this population with variation, and that population is going to change over time. Okay, but something else is going to change over time. And this is also two-dimensional. The environment is going to change over time. Global warming, the environment is slowly going to heat up in Minnesota. We're already seeing turkeys and what the hell are they? Not flamingos, but I don't know what they're. Swans. We're seeing turkeys and swans moving into northern Minnesota where they never have been before. So okay, so
we had an alligator in Lake Erie.
Oh, no shit.
So I mean, it's Florida's moving all the way up here.
Nope. We're not doing it.
Simos was asking for a link there, Mike.
Oh, Simos. Okay. I can put a link out in chat. So let's see who wants to join. Anyway, so okay, the environment is going to change across the earth. It's going to change up and down, like up in the trees or down on the ground. It's going to change in X and Y directions across the earth. So environment is also four-dimensional. It's three-dimensional on the earth. It's four-dimensional over time. It's going to change. And that population with that diversity is going to exhibit a change in reproductive fitness, right? So because it's getting warmer, things that are more adapted to warmer climates in Minnesota are going to excel. If it got colder and it snowed all the time, well, then rabbits that stayed white longer in the summer in the summer months would survive better than rabbits that didn't do that. So we have this slow change of all these different things. We got the allele variation and we have the environment varying. Okay. Now, if you let that roll for about 700 million years, that's what evolution does. Okay. That's where evolution happens. And there's a little more to it after that. Like when
But then Jimbob goes YEC and he slips in there. Were you there? How do you know it was all these millions of years ago?
Yeah.
We can date things. Oh, well, the dating methods don't work.
Well, it's real simple. Okay. If cop pulls me over, I've got a bloody knife on my seat. He has a GPS location that tells me I was at the victim's house when the murder happened. Okay. My clothes are bloody. The neighbors heard me arguing with the victim. Was he, and I could say, were you there?
Right.
I mean, how the hell are you going to prove I'm guilty, right?
Well, with biogeography, he said, well, there's a reason that you can find the same fossils on different continents. They just evolved that way. And it's like, no, you want to talk about odds and probabilities. That's no, it doesn't. You're not going to get two exact species on two different continents. It's because the continents used to be together.
Did you watch
But
that?
He completely denies biogeography, plate tectonics, and all that too. So,
did you watch that video on plate tectonics that Scott sent us from like 1970 or 1960?
that was the one I watched.
Okay, you sent it to us.
Yep.
We need to link that in the chat because boy, that was the best explanation of the evidence for plate tectonics that I've ever seen, and it was really old.
It was a good video, and you get a flashback with the sideburns and the suits and everything, and the
70s stuff.
No, because that's Big Bad Mama covered some Jimbob trolling that Mama was doing, and one of the things was on plate tectonics, and
oh my God, that discussion went the same way.
Yeah, and then I'm like, well, I'm going to have to do a video on plate tectonics one of these days. So I was watching some videos because I wanted to know about what was how they measure the rate and how it leaves the traces in the rocks and everything. That's the part I was interested in. And I came across that one that came out just a couple years after plate tectonics was adopted officially as a theory. So I'll find the link for it. Go ahead.
He was already running over Big Bad Mama, so by the middle of the discussion, Big Bad Mama was also succumbing to Jimbobian interrogation, and forgot to mention that basically we know that what comes out of those volcanoes, out of those plumes, has a pretty standard ratio of radioactive elements, of parent and daughter elements, right? And for some reason, it's based on what's happening inside the earth, how this stuff is mixing up, churning up, and melting, that when a volcano pops, that rock has a particular kind of radioactive profile, and we can measure over time after it solidifies, it's going to start dropping down. And then Jimbob said, well, what if it's a coincidence? Like that the satellite found the same rate of plate movement as we find with radiometric dating. But Big Bad Mama had already told them that there were two other things, the coral reefs and the erosion on each of these Hawaiian islands, right? So you would have four coincidences. And actually, if you look at how geologists do it, you'll find 100 more coincidences that all line up and tell you the same date. And that's the thing that they fucking miss. They want to pick on one little piece of information and say, oh, that doesn't work, and all this bullshit.
The link for that plate tectonics video is in both the chats, and I gave you one in the private chat, Mike.
I see that.
Everybody you want to know a great explanation for plate tectonics from, I think it's 1970 or something.
Yeah.
It's pretty good video. They've even got these models they made where they can rotate the earth and you can see all the plates moving and everything. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, they were showing how when you look at how the continents fit together, you don't look at the continents above sea level. You look at the entire continental shelf, and they fit really well. Let me see if I can pop that up. Here we go. Yeah, this is the video, and
post-glacial volcanic activity.
It's really dated. I don't know if they got a picture of the guy here in the beginning. I can't tell. Yeah, and the graphics is unbelievably bad. It's just unbelievable. I don't know when this was done. It was post.
I think it's 1970 because they said I think it was 66, right about when I was born was when it was officially adopted as a theory.
Yeah.
It was first proposed 50 years earlier, but they needed to find a mechanism which they found over the 50 years, and it officially became a theory in the 60s.
Okay, so now with armed with the idea, with better ideas of what changes in allele frequency mean, what we're doing is we're trying to figure out how life came to be what it is today. And what I was trying to tell Jimbob is there are two things about life. If you look at an oak tree and you look at another oak tree, they're a little bit different. They have different branches. They might have some differences in their leaves, but you can tell that they're both oak trees. But now if you look at a quaking aspen, you're going to see more differences. And then if you look from one quaking aspen to the next, you're going to find similarities and differences. Okay. So there's two dimensions again, where there's, if you look at a quaking aspen and a raccoon, you're going to say, oh my God, there's a lot of difference there, right? But you can look at a raccoon and a bear. So, I mean, there's going to be some things that are more similar to each other than other things. We are far more similar to chimpanzees than any other, and bonobos, than any other animal. And that is the thing that we're trying to explain. So then you come up with this changes in allele frequencies in populations and population genetics. And we know, okay, we're going to make assumptions about, chemistry worked the same way 700 million years ago as it works today. That's an assumption, and we have faith in it. Fine, we can accept that. That's our goddamn religion, right? And from there, you say, okay, so how does a genome change what the animal looks like and how fast it reproduces? So that's where all of evolution becomes very, very complicated. And there isn't one experiment like Jimbob thinks there is that's going to tell you that it's true. There's a million experiments that tell you how basically, and we'll start with fruit flies. You got a fruit fly, you knock out a gene, and his front legs don't grow. But, the other two sets of legs grow. And you knock out another gene and he doesn't live. Knock out another gene and he has no eyes. And we go from there and we do all these very tiny little experiments. And from that, you can work out with, implication and inference, and logic and an understanding of how the fucking world works. And then you can become more and more secure that evolution created the diversity of life that we have today and the similarity. So there's diversity and there's similarity, and evolution accounts for it. And then if you find, if you find something that has to happen in order for there to be evolution, and if we went in the lab and we found out that that could not happen, that it's absolutely impossible, then we would falsify evolution. Until that happens, we have developed this huge body of knowledge. Now, if you wrote it down on 8.5 by 11 paper, okay, it would pile almost to the moon in height, the entire theory of evolution. And within that is tens of millions of experiments. And we keep putting it together and we keep learning more and more about it. Then we do computer models and all of that. And that's what the theory of evolution is. So when you have some son of a bitch, some pig slug, ask you to give you a one-line sentence of what the theory of evolution is, it may be a good idea to tell him to go fuck himself.
Well, and I said something. Yeah, I said something like, along with many other lines of evidence, but yeah, he kept talking over me and cutting me off, and I never got to, anything else like,
you never said
fossils or anything else because he got stuck on. You said it's all observation or something like that, and it's like, that's not what I said.
I think what he was trying to say is that you said that changes in allele frequency was the observation and it was the theory, and you never said that. You never once said that.
No.
And it's
I said, yeah, I said, that's the experiment, that's, I specifically said, you take swabs, and he goes, okay, you take swabs. Yeah, you swab and you that's your experiment.
yeah, and then he makes fun of it. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah, and there's nothing you could do with him.
I feel a disturbance in the force. Check the chat.
Oh, what do we got? Old Joe. We got old Joe. Made. Oh my goodness! Who the hell is this asshole? Pig Slug. Pig Slug. That's Pig Slug. Change this derp, you fucking idiots. Okay, you asshole. I told you that I misspoke, asshole. I took it back. Okay, but there is some truth in that. Okay, diversity does cause diversity in the future. And basically, I didn't know what the hell you were at. I didn't realize how stupid you were. I mean, I knew you were stupid when I went in, but I didn't realize how dumb you were, Jimbob. I didn't realize. I'm sorry.
And Mike did say it's from reproduction. Mike has the transcript. We were reading it earlier there, Jimbob, and you were wrong. You were wrong, and you called me names and said I didn't know what I was talking about. And Mike never said that. It's in the transcript. So
the transcript.
Blah blah blah, Jimbob.
So, anyway. Here we go. A series of chemical mutations. Yeah, and then he goes on when he talked to that next guy. Okay, then he says all kinds of really dumb shit about mutations. Like he thinks, I don't know what he thinks a mutation is, or what. I have no idea what goes on in his little brain, because he absolutely doesn't know anything about chemistry or biology. So I'm not sure what he thinks. Like a mutation is like a thing that you can observe. Like you can look at it, right, and say, oh, that's a mutation. And you can look at another gene and say, oh, that's a beneficial mutation or a beneficial change.
I have a feeling he's the one that'll say, what good is part of a wing? And, it serves a lot of functions.
Yep. He's not very bright. You got to go. Well, no, he's not going to go learn a little science because he's pulling. It's a grift. What he's got going over there is nothing but grift, and he doesn't believe in anything he's saying except for that orthodoxy Christian bullshit. Boy, is it fun to listen to them fight with each other. Oh, Simos is here. Shit, I didn't see you, Simos. Sorry. Hey. Simos.
Hello, Simos.
Simonos.
You left him waiting too long. He felt.
No, there we go. I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. I thought you were talking about me for a little while there, and I was going, really? Well, you're probably not completely wrong, but calm down. Anyway, there you go.
It's not about you, Simos.
It's always about me, surely.
No, it's about me.
Yeah. Like I said, Anyway, there was so much I was going to say because I've been watching for a little while.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I don't want to jump in because, I'll be taking us back around a subject that you've already spoken about.
No, that's, if you want to emphasize some things I said.
Thing is, from a while back, which is like, like the scientific method is, it's not a single series of steps. That's the main thing, and also, it depends on the science you're talking about as well. A good example is, like someone like John Lennox will call mathematics a science, and that has a different method of proof.
Right.
To virtually all other physical sciences. And then, of course, there's such things as what can we call them? Scientific modeling, which is going to be different again. Right.
Right.
And so, to say that like something you do for physics, like, I don't know, proving Newton's laws of motion, for instance, is the same as saying, proving like some psychological theory. it's just a completely different method of doing it. So to say the scientific method is X and all science follows that is just ludicrous.
I know it's
Ludicrous.
so second grade.
Mm.
It's like second grade.
Yeah, exactly. Also, like, the theory of evolution is very much like this, but like you come up with, at some point you've come up with this observation, you come up with this, like, trying to explain something, and you look at the data and you think, oh, look, it kind of leans this way. All right. And then you go and say, oh, well, that does line up with the observation. Okay. But, maybe some more data comes in, and then you have to reappraise the hypothesis in the first place.
Right.
Right. Because you realize that that's probably wrong because it doesn't explain all of the data, or it's not parsimonious enough, or for some reason. So you go back again and you say, right, well, let's modify the hypothesis based upon some new observations we've got, and then we'll go and retest it again.
Yeah.
Right? And then you retest it again and you go, okay, well, maybe it's not 100%, but this is our best explanation currently. And then later on, you find out that Mercury's retrograde orbit doesn't quite line up with Newton's theory of gravity. So you readjust it again. Does that mean gravity doesn't exist? No, I don't think that's how the scientific process works. So I think this confusion, and I think it is a confusion on Jimbob's part, it's a genuine confusion, is between the various different processes that induction goes through to reach a conclusion, and then the various processes that, or the various types of deductive arguments that come to necessary conclusions. And people mix those two things up all the time.
Yeah.
They really do, especially in a community like where it's tied into something like a supernatural conclusion, right? Which obviously is not going to be easily inductively proved, if at all. At best, you might be able to do an abductive argument for it, or you're going to end up with a deductive argument, which is exactly tautological. And that's the irony that I was getting to. It's like to say that that diversity leads to diversity. It's just a tautology.
Yeah.
Okay, but that doesn't matter in an inductive argument. It really doesn't matter because there's a larger point to be made.
And it's really a good idea to understand that science is just an extension of every other way we humans have of knowing things. And when you think about it, okay, when you learn not to poke your finger in your eye when you moved your hand, okay, what scientific method did you use? What was the observation? What was the hypothesis? Right? It's so stupid, and science is like that too. I mean, yeah, this is something that you would teach in 7th grade, about how the scientific method works, and it's really cool if you can rigorously follow that. But this isn't what is done on an ordinary day-to-day in the lab. I mean, you're down in the fucking trenches looking at one tiny little thing.
Yeah, I mean, potentially. I mean, there have been certain, it goes both sides. So some scientists have said, have questioned the philosophical kind of rigor by which you could give a definition to this, a definite definition to the scientific method. Right, some philosophers have done that, and some scientists have done that. But as I said, like, it depends on the science. There are different types of sciences. They rely in slightly different order in which they come to conclusions. They don't all rely on induction, if you include mathematics as a science.
Yeah, mathematics is
there you go.
The most rigorous thing that we have. And Gödel's theorem proved that even mathematics has holes in it, right, with the axiom. Sure. And mathematics proves things. Science doesn't prove things. It shows what, we can pretty much trust, what we're going to put our faith in. So basically, it gives us.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's an advanced kind of level of it, right? So I'm sure you'll know about this, but there's a mathematical rating on how reliable the process, the models that you're basing your conclusions on are, right?
Yeah.
So there's a it's called whatever It's the sigma rating, okay?
Yep.
So in science, they only use sigma 5,
I
which
thought
is
it was
5 decimal places of repeatability of
Yeah.
observations, in order to say that that is an actual scientific theory, right?
Yeah,
Or a fact, if you like.
I thought I read that for basically for the age of the Earth and all of that. It's a sigma 6 or something like that. As far
Yeah,
as
it's higher, but
yeah,
obviously it's just a matter of number of decimal places by
yeah,
which you can, call your theory accurate to the
yeah,
model that you're trying to use to do it. And in physics, that it's to the power 5, so
yeah.
that's a
No,
lot.
And with a theory being a body of facts, isn't it as close to a fact as you can get?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure,
You
but
may as well call it a fact because, I mean, you can take any fact, right? Like I got a pencil in my hand, right? That's a fact, okay? And you can say, well, how do I know I have a pencil in a hand? What if there's a demon putting things into my brain? Makes me think I have it. I mean, you can always find little holes, and I think Gödel with his Gödel's theorem showed us what that really means. Basically, that the idea of certainty is something that is more of a religious idea than anything else. It's not anything that we ever deal with. We never deal with certainty in our lives.
yeah, I mean, look, you know, certainty is for deduction. It's not for induction.
Yeah,
So as soon as you say something is inductive, you're no longer even considering an epistemology where there is a necessary conclusion, and that is the
yeah,
biggest mistake I hear from people like Jimbob, or the religious side, is they say, well, how can we know it's true if it doesn't have a necessary conclusion, right? And they don't understand that even if you have a necessary conclusion, that doesn't mean you've necessarily shown it to be true,
yeah,
right? You have to still accept the premises to be true before you can have that necessary conclusion,
right.
right? And that is still up for question.
You know, and
So,
induction gets kind of shit on. I mean,
sure it does. Yeah, sure it does.
obviously, we don't know if the sun is going to rise tomorrow.
Hmm?
Fucking another star could come flying out of nowhere and hit the goddamn thing, or the laws of the universe could completely break down.
Sure.
And it's possible that the laws of the universe break down outside of our galaxy somewhere. That could be what's going on with dark matter. That things are just very slightly different. The cosmological constants aren't what we think they are
Mm.
across the entire cosmos, right? So, I mean, like induction. But the thing is that we rely on induction, and it's the only way that we can live and breathe. If the world stops working the way it
Mm.
works, we're going to stop living and breathing, and we're not going to be around to discuss it. So we don't have to worry about it. So you
Yeah,
can rely on
yeah,
induction.
that's true. That's true, but
I
of
mean, it's
course,
solid.
that there's a big kind of parentheses around that, because
Hey,
that is a philosophical, almost a philosophical. It's my philosophical assumption. It's my epistemology, but that's not to say that we can't find information or truth only through the inductive method, right? I mean,
yeah.
that's just to say that, but just there's a limited amount of conclusions that we can take,
Well,
right?
Jimbob,
As go ahead.
he even tries to undermine deduction, right, and logic by
Mm.
saying that without God, it would you have
Oh,
a
right, yeah,
basis for logic, right? Which is just fucking ridiculous. That's all they're saying is like, okay, a good way to put it is like, I will say that logic and the way the universe works right now, and the consistency of physics, and the ability to use induction every day. Okay, I would say that just is. That's a brute fact. Okay, that's what we have.
Mm.
And what he wants to say is that God made it that way just so, which is
Sure.
no different than me. I mean, I could say that God is the cosmos, right? I could make
Yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I would be as right as him, and the cosmos made things just so. So I mean, it's the same goddamn thing, and that's all
Mm.
presuppositionism is. It's like sliding in this Christian idea of God in through
Sure.
this little back door, and it's like, wait a minute. Even if I accept that there has to be some reason for logic to be the way it is, it doesn't mean that I have to accept that that was some weird ass dude in a robe making willful decisions about how to create a universe, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and that is what's wrong with presuppositionism, but they can't see that. They can't see beyond that.
Oh, yes, they can. They've had it explained to them enough times, right?
I think
A number of times I've been arguing against the presupper and gone, well, that's your claim, yes. Now, can you demonstrate your claim to be true?
well, I
I
think
don't accept the premises, so therefore I'm not going to accept the conclusion.
I
Right?
think if you took a fact and you tattooed it on your fist, and if you punched Jimbob in the forehead with it,
That wouldn't make
he
any
would
difference.
just get more confused.
No,
You know,
he'd just fall over when he came back round again. He'd still get up and do the
he'd
same.
I know.
yeah,
And you mentioned dark matter, and Jimbob was mocking dark matter too.
yeah.
That it's just some excuse to explain things or something. But it's something. It is something. They just don't know what. Right?
Yeah, there's a thing.
There is a measurable,
Sure.
effect or whatever. Right?
Yeah, there's a place called the Bullet Nebula, which has a different gravitational center to the matter that we see. So that shows that two colliding galaxies, it's called the Bullet Nebula, and as they've passed through each other, some of the matter has passed through, and yet the center of gravity isn't where you'd expect it to be. And that shows that there's some other form of gravity there that we can't see. The proof for dark matter.
Yeah,
Let alone the casual one, which they all like to say, Zwicky, Zwicky's observations.
But that's where, like I say, these creationist talking points come in, because you hear a lot of the creationists say the same thing he's saying, is that, oh, well, if you can't explain something, you just make up dark matter, and that's the answer. And it's like, well, no, they didn't make it up. Like you said, there's a measurable effect or whatever, and they said, hey, there's something here, right?
Well, the irony here is that that's what they're doing with God.
Yeah.
They don't know what created the universe any more than anybody else does, and they've just said, "Oh, well, it's God."
Yeah, and then the idiocy of,
well, there you go. That's exactly what you've just done. You've just created an explanation for which you've got no justification whatsoever. It's what we call in science a hypothesis.
And where did they get this idea of God? Right, from their mom and dad, from the Bible, from people in their community in the church. What if all those people were like part of the God conspiracy? Right? I mean, what the fuck?
Well, that's Neil deGrasse Tyson, I believe, said that if you wiped out all the science books and all the religious texts, someday the science books would be rewritten the same way.
Yeah.
But the religious texts will never be rewritten the same way.
Good point.
It might have been Steve Weinberg, actually.
Yeah.
He may have been quoting him or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. It's because the religious thing is metaphysics, right? It's naive metaphysics. And with naive metaphysics is they're making up whatever fucking story they want to account for the facts. Now, we look at dark matter, we have an observation that something is wrong with our models, right? Nobody has made up a story about why that happened except for the Christians. Right?
Well, everybody, but their aunties made up a story, and they're all different.
Right. The thing with
Hindus have got one, the Jains have got one, the Islam have got a different one.
Yeah. And the thing with naive metaphysics is that there are an infinite number of stories that you could make up to account for what we observe or where we are today.
Yeah.
If there's an infinite number of stories, if you pick one of them, then the probability of that one being right, because there's no evidence for any of them, is basically 1 over infinity, which is zero.
Yeah, which is zero. Yeah.
So I mean, it's like why is brain in a vat a really bad idea? It's because we have brain in a vat, right? So I'm a brain in a vat in a room with a scientist, and her name is Sharon. Or wait a minute, what if his name is Dave? Or what if their name is Joby? What if it's a chimpanzee? What if it's some kind of alien? I mean, there are an infinite.
What if it's a unicorn? Yeah.
Yeah, there's an infinite number of brain in a vat stories. So the probability of any one of them being right is zero.
Yeah.
just like that. You don't accept what you cannot find at least some fucking. I mean, we get a toehold on reality when we're born. Like my epistemology starts with the zygote. Basically, the zygote, when it splits into two cells, that one cell will be informed by the other cell. When it splits into four, all four cells will be informed by each other. Eventually, one will decide to be a liver. One will decide to be a heart. And it goes on from there, right? And then,
kind of. You got to be a little bit more selective with your words, because you're of course using the language of purpose, and this is where this is some of the problem, right? They want to say, I can't imagine this happening without a purpose, without it being purposed, because that's the language that humans use. Why? Because we have brains, we are intelligent, and that's the big, for me personally, that's the big kind of misstep they take, of saying, well, because I think this way, it must be that the universe
thinks that way, right?
It works the same way.
Teleology.
Right? Panpsychism or some shit, And they want to go, oh, there you go. There must have been somebody who thought about the universe before it was created, because I thought about the universe before I saw it,
Yeah, I don't know. I think we actually did this when we were kids, but like when a cell divides, when one cell divides into two cells, the one cell says to the other cell, "Hey, you be the cops and I'll be the robber." Basically they communicate with each other, right? And one of them decides to be the top, your head, and the other one decides to be your asshole. And some zygotes like Jimbob only got an asshole.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, again, you it's so easy to do, is to borrow from this language.
Yeah.
And that's our our problem as a species, which has this purpose-driven explanations, and that's what they're looking for. That's all they're looking for. But it simply doesn't follow. In fact, to say that there is something with purpose when we have no evidence for it is an argument from ignorance, if you put it that way, or at best, it's unparsimonious, right? So that's what I like to say, and therefore that's why all of the arguments that people like Jimbob or many of them, Darth Dawkins or any of those guys, they're all fallacious arguments. Like the tag argument in general is fallacious, the way I've seen it done by Matt Slick and whoever else,
Yeah. And if you go to other lines of evidence, he's gonna just throw a bunch of I don't believe in all that stuff either, because you go to fossils and dating them and morphology and all that kind of stuff. He denies all that too. So what else are you?
Dave,
what are you going to offer?
Well, you've already shown him up on that point, because he's accepted that alleles do change in a population over time. I mean, it's too late, dude. You may want to say that he may be inside chat going, "Oh, causes. Well, they do. I mean, literally, the antecedent of a cause is an effect, which has an antecedent. Right? Mm-hmm. So that's literally how the world works. Right? Yeah. So to say that we're fucking idiots for pointing that out, that's a bit dumb. That's a bit short-sighted. You're relying, of course, on the fact that you think you've got some deductive argument, which you can prove as being true. You can't, right?
Right.
You can't do it.
Yeah, they'll accept an inch, but you can't never get to a mile. And it's like, well, you just need another inch and another inch. And it's like, yeah, my car can get a mile real quick. A cheetah can run a mile real quick, but that snail doing it, a few millimeters at a time is going to get there too.
Yeah. And I like to notice how he snipes from the side chat like the pussy that he is. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
So
someone thinks he's got good deductive arguments. He sure has a lack of putting them on his channel.
Did somebody throw Jimbob out or time him out? Because
no.
He comes in, snipes, and goes because he doesn't want to hear us respond to him.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, they have legitimate questions, right? That they never ask. They go to this scientific method and this bullshit. What they really want to know, like, okay, Jimbob will talk about how the snake's fangs and venom developed, right?
Mm.
And those are legitimate questions. How did the liver evolve? How did the kidney evolve? How did mammal glands evolve? But they never want to listen long enough to talk about that. But that's where you get to this real basic science that we've done, where we know that one cell communicates with another cell. Okay, they basically send messages back and forth, and one cell, like your heart field, the field that creates your heart in your tissue, also creates your liver when it's next to your small intestine. So basically, you've got like every cell has its own context. And anyway, I extend that all the way to when an organism is born with a brain and when it starts learning stuff, the same process is going on basically, and it just continues. And then we get to the point where, we got language and we have language games and all that stuff. But I mean, all of our epistemology is based in this, us being an organism in the world, and the world kind of training us to think in a certain way by the way the world works, right? We are a certain kind of organism. We have this nervous system, and it is a kind of nervous system. And when we are in relation to the world, we develop in this certain way. And that's why we can all use the same language. That's why we can get along. We can make plans, and we can have a YouTube channel and have a chat about all of that. But it all starts out with this very basic idea of being an organism in the world and being trained by the world. And that is why the world is real. That's what you call real. It's the definition of real. And of course, philosophers some fucking phony language games and pick holes in that. But I don't have any patience for them anymore. Anyway, what's going on in chat here? I dated a fossil once. She was an old bitch. I dated a fossil.
I like his one that says, "I'm not a smart man, but at least I'm not a Jimbob."
Yeah. Well, 10 years ago, I dated a fossil. So one fossil dating another fossil, and I looked in the mirror and I said, "Knock it off." I quit. It's like, no, this is not right.
And you hear some things from Jimbob, and it's like he knows what he's doing. He can't, like Simo said, you get these things explained to you how many times, and you still are making the same arguments. You just want to make those arguments for the audience. You don't care about listening.
Well,
in my opinion, they get stuck in deductive arguments, right? They just can't understand how you can know something without it being a deductive argument. And this is why you can chase them down trails of causes as much as you like, but because you can't get to the end, they always end up rocking away going, yeah, but what did that?
Yeah.
Because that's their question. What did that? It's like when you're a kid and someone goes, why? 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 Yeah, but why? Oh, hang on a sec. Yeah.
That's what I got when I was on Hamza's Den way back when. I think they were talking about evolution or something, and then next thing you know, it gets to, yeah, but where did the universe come from? That's like.
Did you ever see that Louis C.K. series where he was talking to his little 5-year-old girl, and she was asking, she was asking about the sun, and then he'd tell her, and then she'd say, why? And then pretty soon he starts saying, because Daddy made some bad decisions, and then he goes on and on. and then after a while he admits to some horrible thing that he did, and then she says, okay, now I get it. Like, she goes away. It was the funniest skit I've ever seen, and it so typifies being a parent when they get into one of those why modes. Oh my God.
Our dying son says, I believe that a hail Satan is due. Hail Salutations Satan to everyone.
Yeah, hail Satan. Oh my goodness. Anyway.
But yeah, I pick up, certain things that he throws out that are creationist talking points. He's throwing them to the creationist in the crowd.
Indeed.
He says things about NASA and gravity and stuff to hit the ones that are in that conspiracy mind over there. You pay attention, and he knows what he's doing. He's saying the right things to all those different folks in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, and I want to point out again that Jimbob, okay, he thinks that the atmosphere, like the edge of the atmosphere, wherever that is, it's kind of hard to define, right, should flow into outer space, just like at sea level. If you had a vacuum and you opened the door, the air would rush in. Well, he thinks that should happen at the edges of the atmosphere, and therefore he doesn't believe in gravity or something. He was saying he is that.
Oh my God!
But I'm not a flat earther. Well, you're saying all the same stuff.
Well, he was a flat earther, I guess. But I mean, he actually believes that, right? That there's no reason why the atmosphere shouldn't just like disappear into the vacuum. And I asked him, I said, okay, what is the atmospheric pressure 100 miles above the Earth, right? And he never answered me. It's like, it's right around zero. Right around zero.
He's not going to know, is he?
Yeah. And
I mean, that's one of the things. It's like you can lead a horse to water, but all Jimbob's going to do is piss in it.
Yeah.
There
you go.
And I tell them, I said, when they say, "Oh, you're a dummy," and all this and everything, it's like, hey, I'm not claiming to be a scientist, but you know what? They're still teaching biology.
Yeah.
I tell, the Hovind and the Hams crowd and everything, they've been going at it for how many decades? Is any of their stuff in a textbook anywhere? No. Weird, isn't it? So
to summarize, what Jimbob will do, he'll get an honest guest in who wants to talk to him and wants to explain something, right? And then he will keep weaseling the conversation until he gets the guest to say something that he can seize on, right? That doesn't make sense according to his logical, deductive, whatever the fuck. Like, when he got me to say that diversity causes diversity, which there's a little bit of truth in, and then you say it out loud, and then he will not listen to you from then on. And from then on, he runs the show, and he's going to show, Jimbob is going to show the entire scientific community that he is the most brilliant man on the planet, and he's going to overturn the entire field of biology. And the hubris in that just fucking blows me away.
Yeah, but this perfectly highlights what I'm saying, right? Is he cannot think of an argument in anything other than a deductive form, right? And in a deductive form, that is a tautology, and it certainly isn't a reason to believe the conclusion, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you apply that to his argument, then all his arguments are tautologies, right? In which case, we've got no reason to believe that God is the foundation of logic. So I'm sorry, you misunderstand it for somebody else, right? This is an inductive argument, right? There's no such thing as circularity. End of story. So it can't be tautological, okay? And then you misapply that, right, as if we're talking a deductive argument, in order to make a point, which, if it were true, would completely, would completely undermine your own arguments. So I find it hilarious, right, that they're so
these syllogism people,
they're so backwards.
Syllogism people in philosophy drive me fucking crazy, especially when these amateurs like Jimbob came up with a syllogism the other day. Premise 1, premise 2, and then the conclusion. And I'm like, okay, none of those things connect up. There's no implication anywhere. You just asserted one thing. I think he asserted that you cannot find abstract objects in nature. And then he had premise 2. It takes a mind to have an abstract object. Premise 3, therefore you need I don't know, but it didn't make any fucking sense.
Oh, I've heard a lot similar to that. Danny used to say something similar.
Yeah, Danny does it too. But I mean, they fall in love with this idea that you're going to come up with these.
Yeah.
Okay, if you come up with a premise, A and B, therefore A, you've you've just declared A in the fucking premise, right?
Well, A or not A.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just like fuck. You can't. You have to put meat on those premises, and you have to look at them very carefully to find out whether or not you have something called an enthymeme, which means you've somehow buried into the premise the logic that the conclusion requires without actually making a logical connection.
Yeah.
But your mathematics wouldn't work, but yet it seems like the argument is sound. Man, that sounds sound.
Well, I mean, the point again is, well, I don't know if it's again, but sure, you can have a valid form of an argument, but that doesn't necessarily mean that just because it's valid doesn't mean that the conclusion is true.
Yeah, but there's
that's just basic for 101 philosophy.
Yeah, but a careful arguer will make premises 1 and 2 so that they sound kind of like, yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable. And yet buried in that is this enthymeme, the hidden conclusion. And then they'll pull it out and it's like, okay, the conclusion does not sound sensible, but the first part of the argument sounded intuitively okay. And all they've done is tricked your fucking your meat brain into, because your meat brain works with messages from our dicks and from, emotions and all of that.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Anyway. Hey,
who's the new person?
We have Mr. Skook, Mr. Skadook.
That's right.
Finally.
Hey.
I escaped my bondage to toddlers.
We can actually hear you.
I'm glad you can hear me. And I haven't been disconnected by the internet once so far.
Yeah.
Ooh.
We're hating on Jimbob.
I can tell, yeah.
Well, I mean,
A, because it's a stream, and B, because I've been reading the live chat there.
Oh, it's just because it's the same old, right? If Jimbob was Jimbob was something special or new or innovative or had some kind of, I mean, even if he came up with a deductive argument which was like fresh, right? I'd be like, oh, this is great. Let's tear this one apart, right? No problem. Okay, that'd be interesting. But it's not. It's the same shit. It's exactly the same shit that I've been hearing for 5 or 10 years now from every one of the Caesar apologists. In fact, it's worse, right? Because it's not even up to the standard of Matt Slick.
Right. I think everybody in the community reviewed his last argument video that he put out. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure which one that was. But
some about atheists.
Atheists are dumb or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of videos, so it's easy to find. Most of his stuff is live. So
just that statement alone is a fucking fallacy. I mean. Sure, some atheists are dumb, yeah. And the point?
Yeah.
And your point? Some Christians are dumb. Fucking hell. Yeah.
Anyway.
I think we know one. At least one.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever.
I think I'm kind of done with Jimbob. I don't know. He has more fun than a barrel of monkeys because he's so arrogant, But
yeah, I don't know. I think I've been passively aggressively assaulted by better people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not intellectually, it's not that demanding for me personally.
Well,
I listen to him and I just think, well, that's just like a number of fallacies all at once. So
on this last stream, there was a guy that his name is Clay or something, and he was talking about how he became a young Earth creationist. And it's really interesting. He really says it out loud that YouTube started sending me all these videos, and then I realized that science was wrong.
His videos are arguments against atheism, the problem of evil, and episode 1. Yeah, those. So I think that was the last one. It's arguments against atheism, problem of evil. And I think everybody that does a review, I think, took that on. So that's where I got sucked in, was when I think Deconverted Man did a review, and that's where I got sucked into Jimbob.
Well, we have luminaries like Leo that are experts on the problem of evil. So, good luck, Jimbob.
I
You
really
know,
I really don't like the argument against evil because I'm a Buddhist, and for Buddhists, we accept that evil is necessary. So if I were a Buddhist god and I wanted to create a universe, I would have to create evil and good.
yeah,
Otherwise, nobody would have any fucking fun. It's kind of like Ellen Watts always said that, God and the devil in the beginning, before there were any human beings or any creation, got together and they said, "Hey, you be the good guy and I'll be the bad guy, and we'll create this race. And we'll have a fuck ton of fun with them."
yeah.
And
There you
that's
go.
basically describes Christianity to a T. It's like,
Well,
what's
I
that?
mean, I like the argument, right? Only on one basis, right? Firstly, that it's logically sound, as far as I can see, given the assumptions, it's logically sound. So
Yeah,
there's no way out of it. And then number two, in my personal life experience, right, the evidential problem of evil has converted more people from Christianity than almost anything else. I mean, in this little community where we're all into logical arguments, no, obviously it's not that effective. But if you go through 20 years if you just go through 20 years of life, right, you are going to find out that the world can be a pretty shitty place to those that you love.
yeah.
Okay. And therefore, it's unlikely that there's a Christian God
Man,
doing this, right?
if you've ever had any pets at all, you realize how
Yeah, there you go.
fucked up it is, right?
There you go.
And as a public service, I'm putting a link in the chat, and I gave you one too, Mike.
Okay.
If you want to know about evolution, and this is just one example, this is from Yale University. It's like 36 lectures
Yeah.
for free. For free. Now, yes, you got to watch 36 lectures because that's just, and this is like an hour on each little topic stuff. These aren't even in depth, but this is just to cover your basics about evolution. But every time I say, when somebody says, well, explain evolution to me in the chat, I'm like, here's this link. And they'll say 36, 34, 36 lectures, whatever it is. I'm not watching all those. And it's like, well,
And you don't want to know.
yeah, 36 lectures.
Shut your mouth.
30 minutes, 50 minutes, 40 minutes, give or take an hour about. They're all under an hour. So for free, though, I mean, imagine how much, the people paid for these classes at Yale, right?
Yeah.
You can take these for free. And I understand there's other universities offer other things and on other subjects and stuff. Now, it might be a few years out of date, but it's free, right? And you can get a lot of your basics and stuff. Go watch them. I mean, if nothing else, just think about the free factor and how much other people paid to be in that same classroom.
Right. Yeah, I'll post that. I'll try to get the links together here this afternoon. So those are the Yale courses, but the problem of evil is very similar to the problem of why did God nail it? Turn his son into a meat monster and then have him nailed to a cross? Like, why the fuck did he do that? I mean, why didn't you just forgive everybody? I mean, it's that goddamn simple, right? Or you could have created a golden lamb or some fucking thing and said, okay, if you believe in this golden lamb, then you forgive him, right?
Well, and for how many centuries?
No,
he could have given everybody a dream, like where an angel took a burning coal out of an oven and touched it to your lips and said, "Oh, you're purged of all your sins," because that's how he handled Isaiah. There's plenty of ways. It's just it's just a mythical way of describing what's wrong with the world and what we want the cure for the world to be.
Right.
It's random, arbitrary.
You're going to follow a God who, like, if any parent, right? Okay, take one of your children, just pick one, Jenny, and turn her into a goat, and then have somebody nail the goat to a fucking wooden spike and torture it for 3 days, And why do all that? When all you really want to do is, you want to fucking build a fence or something. I mean,
That's
fuck.
as Dan Barker does the bit about the good news, where he says the guy's standing on his front porch and he's like, "Hey, why don't you come over here and hang out with me, and we'll have a lot of fun and it'll be really great and everything. And don't worry about all these things or whatever, because my son is in the basement getting tortured for it.
Right.
But you can come in and we'll have a great time up here because I'm torturing him in my basement, so we can have a good." Yeah, it's a good little bit on the good news.
Yeah.
And would you go up to that guy's house? And so
It depends how good looking the hookers are, to be fair.
Depends how fresh the candy is.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. But like, I don't. I think that if you're going to like engage in those arguments, right, then you're already stepping onto the ground of deduction, right, as opposed to induction. And I think it's beholden upon atheists to be very clear between those two things, because it's the biggest complaint I have about the other side is that they conflate the epistemologies, right?
Yeah.
Like naturalism versus I don't know, idealism, I guess is what they basically are getting to, right? And I don't like that at all. So I try not to do it. I try my very hardest to say, look, I'm not going to ever give you a logical deductive argument for something if there is an inductive argument which works.
Yeah.
That's basically just my personal attitude, and everybody has a different way of doing it. So I accept that, but I don't like them to confuse it. So I really like we were saying with Jimbob, he's trying to say to you, speed of sound, oh, so changes cause changes.
Yeah.
That you're a bunch of fucking idiots for saying that, right? No, that is how reality works.
Yeah.
Right, one thing changes, that becomes the effect for something else,
Right.
which changes. That is just how it works. So
Well,
to
but
say
let's
that because
always-
it's a tautology, it's wrong, is fucking dumb in itself.
But what
Right.
was the first cause? What was the first mover? They go
That's
back
what
to
they want to say.
Yeah.
And if they were to say that, right, that would be fine. We could have an argument about the unmoved mover, or
Mhm.
the potentialized actuator, or whatever they fucking want to word it as. It's all just fucking bullshit.
Well, I was really surprised at the beginning of this stream that we're talking about the breakfast tacos one. He was criticizing breakfast tacos, and he was saying, Jimbob was saying that it does not make sense to talk about what happened before the universe, before the cosmos, right? So Jimbob was presenting a really good argument against presuppositionalism, and I didn't follow what everybody was saying, so I don't know if he realized it or not, but he just shot down the whole fucking tag argument.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that way.
And he was doing it because he was disagreeing with breakfast tacos. I don't think he realized what he was doing.
I think one of breakfast tacos things is to give some kind of presuppositionalist or tag argument for the non-existence of God.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I think that's what he was arguing against. Yeah. And in that process of doing that, he's also showing why tag doesn't work.
Right.
There's something called tang. I don't know if you know this one, but
tang?
The argument for the non-existence of God. The transcendental argument for the non-existence of God.
Oh, tang.
And it's like a mirror version of tag.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And it basically says, look, if it's possible that no God exists, then there is some universe in which no God exists. If there's some if there's some universe that no God exists, then necessarily this universe no God can exist.
Cool.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's just the backward argument, or it's just the reverse. If you like.
Yeah, no, it kind of reminds me of seventh graders doing philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm an eighth grader, so I'm way above that level.
Yeah. I remember when I was I was like 9 years old, and I run into this guy. He wrote a book called The Magus, John Fowlis, right?
I know that, yeah.
Okay, he also wrote a book called something about abduction, where he abducted this girl and he ended up killing her. Do you remember what that one was? That got made into a British movie.
I don't know actually.
Yeah, it's a really good. That was a good novel too. But anyway, John Follis wrote a book of just like I forget what you call them, just these little one paragraph philosophy things. And I read that stuff when I was real young, and I thought, oh my God, I can do philosophy. And I got a notebook, and I started writing down all sorts of gibberish.
Yeah.
and it was a lot of fun, and I would love to find that notebook, and I'd probably laugh at it, but I'm sure I had something that was meaningful in there. But it was like a seventh grader doing philosophy, and that's pretty much all I hear from these fucking people.
Yeah.
Is just go back and get back into grade school and argue with those kids.
I think I might have mirrored the contingency argument there. Actually, I'm not certain. I can't remember what I did, but anyway. Yeah. No. I mean, I think. One of the things that I've heard very, very good philosophers saying is that anybody that comes to a conclusion based on anybody that comes to a conclusion just based on philosophy is probably barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
No truth. You should study science.
Oh.
And there's a thing to like wait for an answer. You know what I mean? There seems to be some impatience that, well, because science hasn't explained some certain aspect of something, well, then they're just not going to.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe a little patience. Tomorrow, might have an answer for your question, right?
They're not motivated for patience. They're motivated for disinformation, so that people will be more bonded to their particular group, shall we call it?
Well, and it's like a thing of, I tell people, I don't get mad at science because when I was a kid, they said dinosaurs had skins like elephants. Now they say, no, they had scales and feathers and all that. And it, because they found some better evidence, right? Yeah. It's not like, oh, they lied to me or, anything or something. It's like, you didn't have a lot of dinosaur skin to look at, right? So they just figured looking at other reptiles, well, it's kind of like, them, and then they got some better fossils, and then they found the other little attachments and the filaments that shows, well, they got some proto feathers. They found all this new stuff, and it's like, wow, that's really cool. I wasn't mad at them for learning something that they didn't know 50 years ago.
Oh, Simos, that John Follis book is called The Collector. It was his first book, and they made it into a movie. This English dude. And then he also wrote The French Lieutenant's Woman. And the book I'm talking about is called The Aristo. So I guess I was about 13, 14 years old when I found that, and I started doing philosophy.
Wow.
It was just such a thrill to be able to see somebody do it and then to say, well, I can do that too. And I come up with all this bullshit, and that was cool. Anyway, but yeah, The French Lieutenant's Woman is probably his biggest claim to fame. The Magus was a weird fucking novel, man. I remember being really freaked out by that one.
Are you saying magus or maggots?
Magus. Magus.
Yeah, that changes the meaning.
The Magus, yeah. Yeah, not the maggots.
A little bit.
The Collector was a dark fucking, really dark. It was about this guy that fell in love with a girl and he won the lottery. So he bought this mansion, so he went and kidnapped her. And it's all about him keeping her, and he eventually kills her. And oh my God, it's a dark little movie.
I remember the ads for that.
Yeah, it's probably the original serial killer puts a girl in a dungeon movie, and he wrote the book in 1963. Anyway,
that's what I think Ken Ham does with his scientists. He keeps them locked up in the basement. Yeah. And he said, I'm only going to let you out if you say what I tell you to say.
The scientist, and he pays them $150,000 a year, which is pretty fucking good for a scientist, and that is a seller in its own,
Have you noticed all the new faces over there? They're hiring more staff. There's a lot.
They're they're doing a facelift. They are going to go. They're going to become more dangerous with this Martin Wise, running them.
Yep.
He is, because he kind of knows what he's doing, and I think Ken Ham was just a fucking backwoods country bumpkin, didn't really know how to run that thing. But they are going to be more and more dangerous, and they are coming shit left and right.
They've got another channel too. I can't think of the name right now, but yeah, it's trying to be like a little more hip. They got like some, like the young people are sitting around talking, and you see where it's leaning. They're trying to get a younger crowd watching.
I get all kinds of emails from them, and the whole thing that they're doing is they're talking about how to talk to kids and how to prepare kids to go to college and not listen to what they say about evolution and just all of the. So they're really targeting youth because they know that they got a youth problem right now. Their kids are leaving the church in droves, and they're trying to turn that around. So
yeah, apparently Mary, Mother of Christ, OF fans, you can sub to that if you want.
What's
apparently
that?
Mary's got an OF page.
Oh, where's that?
Mary, Mother of Christ.
Really? Mary?
Got an OnlyFans page, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure.
Why not?
Every
Joan of Arc, they're all there.
Yeah, the new channel is called Zero Compromise, which is a take from Martin Isles, who uses that whenever the topic comes up of LGBTQ folks wanting to go to school or anything like that. His stance is zero compromise. In other words, they want their way or the highway, and that's the new hipster channel that AIG has, and it's got the three young faces up on top. So that's where they're going. 3,000 subscribers already. Gee whiz.
Yeah, well, it's easy to get the kids. It's hard to keep them. One of the things about kids these days is they've got very short attention spans.
Oh, Ken Ham has the book.
So I'm led to believe.
Yeah, he has the book out called Already Gone, where it's either a third or 2/3. Anyway, however you slice the pie, in another generation or two, there's not going to be any pie left.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like, they'll always get some.
Oh,
because, people like comfort. People don't like to be uncomfortable. And the more science goes on, right, the more diverse it becomes, and the harder it is to keep a track of it all. And there are egos out there that want to know everything. It's just not possible in science.
Well, and I can understand, the afterlife and wanting a heaven and seeing grandma and all that stuff. It's a nice ideal or whatever, but you can't make laws based on that though. It's just.
Well, I mean, there's that as well, but I mean.
Well, you might as well make laws about Superman and. The Incredible Hulk while you're at it, right? It's just.
Well, no, I'm just thinking about the number of uncles that have committed some kind of terrible act upon the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, do they really want to grow up and spend an eternity with them?
Yeah, you see
I'm not sure.
See how they got the young faces up on top? They don't have the old timers with the gray hair. See.
Those are young faces.
Yeah, and Bodie.
Well,
quit AIG. Yeah. Bodie did. Ken Ham's son-in-law, for some reason he quit. He probably had a falling out with Martin Isles or something.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, Bodie quit.
I know that everybody got skipped over, and all the people that were there all those years, and they brought in Martin Isles to take over. So I'm sure there was some hurt feelings, at least a little bit, because you figured. Maybe the Canada guy or, Georgia or Bodie or somebody like that. Nope.
Yeah.
What's the Canada guy's name? Oh.
Canada guy. And their Canadian AIG is. Really,
he's always got the bad suits on.
yeah.
He runs the Canada AIG thing. But yeah, all of them got overlooked.
What do we got here? What every Christian must know about gender issues. Rocket
Yep.
scientist reveals truth about aliens.
Yeah, that's Rocket Rob. He used to work at NASA, I guess.
Okay. Here's how the Grand Canyon destroys the evolutionary timeline.
Yeah, Andrew Snelling finally released his findings or whatever. Remember when he had a fight with the Grand Canyon how many years ago? Because he wanted to go in there and just start collecting rock samples. And they said, no, you have to get a permit to do that. So there was a big fight that they won't let creationists collect rocks. And it's like,
I knew.
anybody needs to get a permit, right? I mean, well, he's doing his whole, he looked under the rocks under a magnifying glass, and the rocks had to be soft, which is their bent mud theory. And so how many years later he finally put out a video? And I haven't heard about a paper or anything, but apparently there's a video. So,
by the way, I think Calvin Smith is the guy you're talking about from
Calvin Smith. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
I knew
you,
who
Scott.
you meant when you said bad suits.
It was on the. Oh man, he's got some horrible suits, doesn't he? Wow.
Okay.
So is this video Ginger Dugar? Is she the Dugar family that was like on TV? The ones that got abused?
It's the Duggar family.
I wouldn't doubt it.
There's a documentary on Netflix about the Duggar family. I can't remember the title of it.
Yeah, but AIG has a documentary right here about Ginger and how she life story and testimony to realize she was a false convert, how her life changed when she was genuinely converted, how to witness to lost family members, like her brother who's in prison.
Yeah.
Anyway, oh my
God.
God.
The thing is, when you start with religion, it's easy to pull you into another, variant of your religion.
Yep, it goes on, man. We got an uphill battle here trying to keep the human race rational so that we don't blow ourselves the fuck up.
Wow. The new guy got like $100 million budget, so they're hiring people, and he's gonna, I guess, do a new strategy of media targeting young people with their agenda, and it's anti. LGBTQ folks. It's big on the abortion issue. And whoops.
What's happened?
You okay?
You okay?
The dog got it.
Oh, he's turned into a dog.
Basically, Ken Ham has said they have answered all the, creationist things to death. And they're going to go in a new direction, and that's Martin Isles. And so it's going to be a lot more social issues and pushing their agenda, because if you want, our answers, here's our books, here's our videos. We've already been there, done that. So that's going to be the new strategy.
Wow.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yep.
I mean, it's a nice bit of cash to flow around, isn't it? So there you go.
And
I mean, like, I don't, one of the things that I've been thinking about for a little while now is that although the number of atheists are going up, it's still a small percentage of the population, right? Because people still switch over and switch back, and they become agnostic, and then the next minute they're deists, and then they're agnostic again. Or, I think life throws these things at you as well. Like when you have a family, all right, you want to please the missus, and the missus goes, I want my kids I don't want them to be shunned.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? So there's so many pressures still, social pressures, that is, on people being religious in some way. So my goal now is I don't really care. I don't really care anymore anyway, because I'm too old for it. But I don't really care if you're going to be like whether it's theist or non-theist. That's not really the issue anymore for me. It's what type of theist you are.
Yeah.
Right. So the fundamentalism, right? The creationism, the flat earth, the the Jimbob that says gravity doesn't exist. The electric universe is such a dumb idea. You know, like there's those kind of ideas which I think, you know, need to be combated against, not necessarily the idea that the universe is God.
Well, my thing is like what we've left out of atheism, basically, and life in general, is that we are organisms and we have something something that we need in our lives, and I call it spirituality. And it's basically a certain mode of living and a mode of being, a way to live that anybody can attain. And when people run into depression and horrible, you know, when they start thinking too much and they get all fucking confused, they'll go to religion, because if you can believe enough in something outside of yourself, you tend to feel better, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it's a simple explanation, right?
well, yeah, that's how
It means you don't have to look at the explanation; it's hidden. It's got
yeah,
other gaps. You know?
the way that you recover from alcoholism and addiction is
There
that
you go.
need to believe in something outside of yourself so powerfully that you forget about yourself. And when you forget about yourself, you forget about all your depression, your angst, your anxiety, all your stupid fucking, you know, meanderings of your brain, and you start living outside of yourself. And I think that's kind of the way we're supposed to live. It's the way our organism is designed to be at peace.
Yeah. Mentally, yeah.
But my thing is, you don't need a religion for that. What you need is to live. We need to learn how to live, right? We need to learn how to be the fucking organisms that we are, and have some peace and love in our lives, and we'll be fine. And like some atheists, like Matt Dillahunty, they're kind of like hard line, and they sort of, if you mention spirituality, their fucking heads blow off. We need to quit that. We need to quit that.
Yeah, I don't think that's
need
a fair representation of what he thinks, but okay, I understand the point now.
Yeah. Anyway, you know Kafai, right? He keeps saying you got to take a heroic dose of magic mushrooms.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I did 9 grams the other night, and I wrote down some notes. I wrote down some notes, and I can read my notes to you. Holy fucking mother of God. That's my note.
Okay. I'm too old to be doing heroic doses of anything, but yeah.
I'm not coming down. And that's all I got. And the rest of it, I wrote oh, and then I wrote some fucking squiggly lines, and that was about it. So.
Yeah. No, I did that once when I was in my 20s. I did like you know, maybe quite a few mushrooms, shall we say?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I was with a mate, and I remember thinking, oh wow, I've just had like the answer to life, the universe, and everything. And my mate said, well, why don't you fucking write it down then? So I went, you know, yeah, all right then. So I got up and like I started writing, you know, and it was quite dark, right? So I was just doing it by moonlight.
Yeah.
And I started writing and everything, and I wrote it down, and I was like, oh wow, that is amazing. I actually fucking wrote it down. So I came back, you know, to to everybody else and sat down and went. They went, well, have you done it? And I said, yep, I did it. I wrote down the fucking meaning of life, right? Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, what is it? Can you explain it? I went, no, I can't, but it's down. I've written it down. I woke up the next morning, and it was just scribbles of lines across the page.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just like,
I was like, oh, shit.
But the thing is, Amos, we were right. That is the meaning of life. The scribbles, right? Like we had it. It's just like, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. The first two lines were perfectly printed, by the way. First two lines, perfectly printed. Yeah. And then when it got to, and the meaning of life is squiggle.
That's when the Illuminati came in and took your documents, and they left the scribbles in their place.
Fucking funny, anyway.
Can't let that information out.
Yeah. But, like, I don't know. And it doesn't matter to me, you know, it really doesn't. I'm one of those real lucky people that was never indoctrinated in the first place, right? I never believed, right?
I've always been curious, but not a believer. Yeah.
So I literally had to go through my teenage years, right, and go through trying to figure out nihilism without resort of a supernatural being that could sort it all out for me and just give me meaning, right?
Yeah.
And as I did that, I was like, well, I'm fine now. I've confronted, my own mortality.
Yeah.
Without God, I'm fine. I don't need. I'm never going to need it.
Yeah,
So,
I sorted naturalism out for myself, so I believe I have a well-grounded
yeah.
idea and meaning about what it is and how it works, and from that I've sorted out my entire life, and
Yeah.
just fine, and I don't know, having a good time. Tell you the truth.
Absolutely, still, right? Even though I'm on limited hours myself now, so, but it doesn't seem to bother me too much. I know that. I
Yeah, I
still
could.
get up every day and go, oh, what can I do that'll be fun? Oh, I don't know. Let's go and work on this. Oh, yeah, great.
Went to my 55th class reunion. 23 of us out of 70 are dead.
Wow,
Yeah, it's like
that's not too bad actually.
Yeah, and I'm like, holy fuck! At any moment, I could be on that list, and there's a lot of room on that list for my name. And I'm like, am I going to be on it next year? But I really don't give a shit. Like,
Yep.
one of the things that the shrooms taught me is I'll go into it and I'll think, oh my god, I'm dying, I'm too old to be having this much fun. My heart is going to give out, and then all of a sudden, at some point, I say, you know what? I really don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And as soon as I don't give a fuck, I get up and I start dancing and everything is just fucking perfect. And that's the end of it. And that's kind of the way of life, that you get to a point where you completely give up on yourself. And then all of a sudden you find yourself. I mean, everything
be careful about the words there, Speed. You don't give up on yourself. You just
Well,
give
no,
up on the idea of living forever.
you
You
get up.
know what I mean?
You give up on the idea of self. Like I got online and I started talking to a trip setter because I was really out there and I was like, okay, I need to talk to somebody. And, and I explained a few things that were going on with me. And then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? Enough about me. How are you doing? Can I help you with anything? And I was trying to help this trip sitter. And like they weren't sharing anything personal, right? But it's like, okay, you're fine. I'm gonna go away now because I certainly am fine. All I really give a shit about is like other people. I didn't care about me, and I don't know. That was just a nice place to be because then I have nothing to feel bad about, Anyway, pretty cool. What a trip.
I mean, it's a good. I mean, again, a lot of experienced kids that I see that are living the life have that attitude, right? Of you only live once, so you better be here to enjoy it. You better be here to make the most of it. Not necessarily that doesn't mean hedonism, but make the most of it in whatever way that means. And I see some kids that are really going for having a rich experience in their life.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to see. It really is. And it's amazing what they can do as well.
Yeah.
Right? You see some of these kids at like 14, 15 years old, just on skateboards, like making tricks that you have no idea that could even be done, right? I saw a really nice thing of Tony Hawk's talking to somebody, some skateboarder the other day that's come up with this new way of like doing tricks and skateboarding, which is really clever, and he's just like really into it himself, clearly, the way he's explaining what he's doing, and they're showing some video. And Tony Hawk's is just like, man, I think you're really great, like what you do is so technical and so difficult. I just think it's really great. And the kid's just like, oh man, that's amazing because I'm just so into it. Like, this is what I live for,
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That's
wonderful.
Cool. Yeah, and the really neat thing is that even though we're going to die, there's going to be all these little human beings that pop up, these little eggs, these little zygotes, and they're going to turn into children. They're going to have a fucking blast. They're going to do it all over again. They're going to keep doing it.
Well, they'll do it, but they'll do it with different. They'll do it with different alleles. So, and that's great.
Yeah, different alleles, right? Yeah, changes in alleles.
There you go.
And those alleles will make different alleles too. They're gonna diversity is gonna cause diversity. Yeah.
So, well, are you saying that change causes change? Are you?
Change causes change. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway,
amazing.
Very deep. Very deep.
When mommy and daddy love each other very much.
Yeah, right. Daddy puts a little half a zygote in mommy, and then mommy, whatever.
It mixes all up.
Yep. I got to use that on my kids the other day, a month or two ago. I forget what the fuck they asked. They asked some question that, and I started telling them that when mommy loves daddy.
Well, and the rest of it reminds me of there's a video, Richard Dawkins, the dumbest question he was ever asked or something. And the interviewer said, "What did we do while we were waiting for our, bladder and everything to develop? How did we go to the bathroom?
Oh,
For all those years while we waited for that to evolve." And every time I hear Jimbob talking about nubs, that's the same thing.
Nubs. Yeah, it's like
you had to lay down on the ground and wait for your heart to evolve or something. It's like,
brilliant.
and that goes back to
he actually said, with Andrew coming, he said, a nub pops up and what does the nub do before it becomes a penis? What is the nub for? It's like, oh my God. It's like he actually said this shit out loud, and he acts like he fucking knows something. I mean, he hasn't even, oh my God. No.
And with the hyenas, that's all they need.
Is a nub. Yeah.
There you
go. All they need is a nub, because that's the male and female are very hard to distinguish. It's just a little nub, and they just rub it, and it's enough to get the genetic information exchanged. So that's all you need.
I think Jimbob thinks that all animals and plants have penises. I think, like they're all gendered and they have penises, and I think that's the way he thinks.
Well, and the human penis too is a plunger for a reason.
Yeah.
we're competing with others. So
yep.
It's because the human female doesn't like show heat and all that like other species, and it's not always just because one time that it's you're gonna have a baby, where a lot of other species it's pretty surefire when they you know how it is, two dogs get close to each other and you got a litter of puppies, right? So it's obvious that when they go with the whole evolution's not true and everything and stuff, and it's like, well, then there's no reason for us to have a plunger. It's obviously a result of selection versus the other species that it doesn't look like a plunger, because they don't need a plunger. They're like I say, it's more of a surefire thing when they do it. So it's you've got obviously all these different things, these different nubs of all sizes and shapes and everything, and they all manage to work. It doesn't have to be a certain thing. It doesn't have to be big or long or anything else. It just has to work. That's all it has to do.
In my view, that's when it all went to hell, when the nub popped up, when the nub developed.
All the blood goes there and leaves your brain, right?
Back over my life, when people ask me, would I do anything different in my life? Yeah, when I was 13, I would have got myself neutered. That's what I would.
There's an X-Files episode with the genie where people were getting wishes, and one of the wishes was the guy wanted to be invisible, and he got hit by a car, and he's laying by the side of the road, and nobody knew he was laying there, right? And another one was in the morgue or something, and they pick up the blanket and they kind of look and they go, holy moly and stuff, right? Yeah, he wished for such a large member that when the blood filled it up, he died. It's a whole episode of be careful what you wish for, right?
And that's more like Twilight Zone than anything else.
Yeah, it was. It was a neat little, there was a couple other things too. It was all these different people that were getting these genie wishes, and it all ended up bad.
Yeah, I saw one with this really happy dog holding the ball, and he's and then there's the genie, and the genie says, "Do you really want me to throw the ball a third time?" That was his 3 wishes.
Nice one.
Hey, that's enough. You know, my dog loves it just to throw the ball, and
Throw the ball.
both of them, even the older one, is just like a puppy again when you start throwing the ball. So
My fucking Saint Bernard, he would not bring the tennis ball back. He kept putting them in his mouth. One time he had 5 tennis balls in his mouth, like 5 of them. Like, holy shit, his mouth was like filled with tennis balls. He's like, oh boy, throw another one.
I was throwing it last night, and then the old guy, he's trotted off with the ball and went and laid in his house, and I'm like, okay, I guess he's done. About a half a dozen throws, and the tongue starts hanging.
I got a shooter in the head now. We got to get going.
All right, gentlemen.
Okay, so I guess I think we
Just
covered
remember,
it well.
keep rubbing that nub.
Keep rubbing that
Right.
up, or get it cut off if you're young.
All the species are counting on everybody to rub the nub.
Rub the nub. Okay.
I tell you,
Goodbye.
it's almost like Jimbob's never seen a naked woman, isn't it?
I don't think he has. He lives in
clip that.
with his mom. Okay, guys.